Oh, what's this gonna be? What's it gonna be? Ooh, ooh, come on, come on! A freaking bass! All right. First off, thank you everybody for tuning in to the next guide in our series for Animal Crossing New Horizons. And this is going to be the guide on how to fish. Man, don't you just love like the rose petals going around the river? Like, it's really pretty. But anywho, so this guide is going to be broken up into 4 different sections. So we're going to break it up into tools. We're going to break it up into locations. We're going to break it up into shadows. And then we're going to talk about tips and tricks to make life fishing a little bit easier. So, yeah, stay tuned.
Me now. Quick me now. Me oh me oh me oh. Now me oh me.
Okay, so first things first, we got to talk about tools. Let's head over to our DIY bench and let's see all the different tools that we have at our disposal. So we're really going to have, when we start the game, only one option, and that's going to be the flimsy fishing rod, which I'll show you here. Whoop. So this is the very first one that we get when we first start the game. Flimsy fishing rod. You know, it costs about 5 tree branches to make, and you're roughly going to get around 10 to 11 uses out of this rod before it breaks, and we really need to start thinking about upgrading it to the fishing rod. Now the fishing rod, this will get you roughly around 30 uses or so. Now one of the things you could do is you can use the flimsy fishing rod for around 8 to 9 fish, and then come back and upgrade it so that way you get the most out of both. But you could just, you know, make the fishing rod and use it indefinitely. There's another one, which is the gold one, but we're not going to talk about it since the gold one, you can only really get it when you complete your Critterpedia. So once you get this guy completely filled up, then once this entire thing is filled up, then you get the golden one. So we're not going to talk about it for now. But just know that you have the options of using a flimsy rod or a normal rod. I'd recommend the normal rod just because you're going to get more uses out of it than if you were to use your flimsy rod. But you use whatever you can. If you can only use the flimsy rod, it is what it is. The important thing is that we're out there fishing and we're making money. So when we come back, we'll go ahead and talk about the types of locations that you can find fish in.
Me now. Quick me now. Me oh me oh me oh. Now me oh me now.
Okay, so we're talking locations, right? So there's 3 different locations in which fish can appear. The first one is the ocean. Just head to one of the far edges of one of your town and you'll get to the ocean. The second one is a pond. You may have 1 or 2. Some towns have 3 or 4. When you unlock terraforming, you can create your own ponds. But just know that a pond will spawn different fish than an ocean. And the third one is the river. Ta-da! So just know, some of the fish that appear in the river could appear in the pond, but the pond is going to have very unique fish and wildlife. So it's important to understand all 3. And the reason is because it brings me to my next point, which is going to be the different shadows. So yeah, let's just hop into that. So shadows, right? There's currently known 7 different types of shadows that you can find in this game. So you have a very tiny shadow, which we see, or we just saw over here. So this would be considered a tiny shadow. It's the smallest of all the shadows that can appear. There's one that's a little bit bigger than this, and it's called small. Then there's the medium, the large, extra large with a fin, and then a long skinny shadow. So the long and skinny shadows, you're typically going to see them in the ocean. and it's usually like an eel or something like that. This would be like a large shadow. If you can't tell the difference between a large and an extra large, I would say just, you know, don't risk it. Just go ahead and catch it anyway. Worst case, you know, it's a sea bass. Best case, it's something that is worthwhile. But I'm pretty sure that this one is just a large fish. It may just be a sea bass. Yeah. So it's a large. Extra larges are a little bit bigger. They have a wider face. And sometimes come with a fin. A fin usually means that it's a shark or a sunfish or something like that. But yeah, I'm going to post a picture up on the screen now, and you'll be able to see all 6 next to each other. I couldn't find a picture of the long, skinny one, but just know that these are the main 6 that you're going to be looking for. The other one's like super, super thin. You can't miss it. So now that we know where fish can spawn, and we know what types of fish, right? We now need to know, first off, what fish we're hunting, right? Because fish will appear different times of the year and during different times. So I'll give you an example. One of the hardest fishes to catch in this game is called a stringfish, right? Now, this is it. This is him right here. Now, what makes this so difficult? Well, first, it can only be caught between the months of December and March. So, this game was released March 20th. So, you only really had almost, you know, about a week and a half to try to get this fish. Second, the reason why this was so difficult was because it's in the river and in a very specific part of the river. So let me just talk about that now. In the river, even though it's the river, there's 3 different locations that the river has to spawn fish. I don't know why this house is here. So this section right here is called the mouth of the river, or the river opening. This is going to spawn specific fish. For example, the sturgeon or the salmon you can get in the openings of rivers. Pale chubs, the normal salmon, the araconda, those type of fish, you can get them in the middle of the river, which is the most general part, I would say. You can get cherry salmon also here, but the cliff top, which is any elevated river, so this little cliffhanger here and the river that follows up top, all of this is considered the cliff top. So if you want to get your hands on a stringfish, it needs to be the months of December through March. Hey Ari, how you doing? It needs to be between December through March. It needs to be on a cliff top, so from up here all the way till the last cliff on the bottom. And finally, it needs to be between 4 p.m. and 9 a.m. So if it's not the afternoon till the early morning, you're not going to get your hands on a stringfish. Especially if you're not on a cliff top, because it only spawns on the cliff tops. So that's what makes this fish one of the more difficult ones to catch in this game. But it highlights a very specific point that I wanted to make, which is know which fish you're hunting for and know the location and the time and when the fish appears. Now, this is a very specific fish, but there's fish that appear, you know, almost all year round. Like this guppy, you can get it between the months of April through November. And as you can see here, between the times of, from what it looks like, 6:30 p.m. or 8. Yeah, it looks around like 8. So you can get anywhere from 8 p.m. to around 7 in the morning. So in the afternoon to the morning time, you can catch that. So it's important just to know, you know, what you're looking for and where it spawns.
Me now. Quick me now. Me oh me oh me oh. Now me oh me now.
Okay, so now let's talk about some tips and tricks, right? So let's say in the example of that stringfish, right, that we were talking about earlier. So I know that it pops up here. I've already passed this time because we're in April, but, you know, let's just use the imagination and pretend. So, the stringfish, I know it's an extra large shadow that appears in cliff tops. It's a very, very big shadow. So, there's a fish that you can see here. Well, you can't see because it's palm tree, but there's a fish here. And it's a small shadow. So I know for sure that that small shadow is not my stringfish. So I could do one of two things. I can ignore it, or I can just run. Because when you run near it, it causes the fish to despawn. And now a new fish has to pop up to replace that fish. So I have an opportunity now to force the game to spawn a new fish, which it did up here. That one's also another small one. It's not my stringfish, so I'm just going to run to cause it to go away. Right? Now, if you're just in it to make money, you don't really have a fish that you want to catch, then, you know, catch everything. It doesn't matter. But if you're going for a specific fish, this is an important tool. I would not recommend just running all the time next to it because that's going to despawn every single fish, right? So be purposeful. So let's just keep looking. So down here, I'm not going to find my stringfish, obviously. But if there's a fish that I'm looking for, and that's not the right shadow, then I'll just continue running. So see, that looks like a medium fish. That's not an extra large fish. So I can run, or I can just scare it away by throwing my fishing rod in front of it, getting its attention, and then just pulling it out. So for example, like this. If I already yank, the fish goes away. One of the things to keep in mind too is that doing that does not count towards the durability of your flimsy fishing rod or your fishing rod. So it only counts if the fish bites. So feel free to do that. It's not going to break any sooner for you doing that. That's another medium one, so it's not the one that I'm looking for. Let's scare it away. Whoop whoop. Ooh, very resilient. Okay. So yeah, so you get the idea. Scare the fish that you don't want, or that you know aren't your target fish, and continue to fish for the ones that you want. There's another tip that I have that's gonna make life a little easier. Let me see if I can grab my shovel. So we're gonna head to the beach. To the beach, to the beach, to the beach, beach, beach. And what we're gonna start doing is paying really close attention to those. So I don't know if you just saw in that sand, a little water spout. I'm going to give it a moment so you guys can see it again. So this, if we dig it up, is going to be a clam. These clams can be turned into fish bait in the DIY bench. Oh, nice. So that's an example of a large fish. I don't know if you guys can see it. An extra large fish would be a little wider in the front. Anywho. Let's head to our DIY bench. I'm gonna go ahead and take this time while we're running back to just thank you guys for tuning in and watching the guide. And if you like this content, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel and following us on Twitch too. Alright, and we made it. So, if we go to our DIY bench and we turn in this clam, we can make fish bait. Now, I would recommend making a ton of this. Why? So what fish bait does is it forces the spawn of a new fish. So if I'm in the cliff top, or actually, I'll do it right here. So you see that little fish? That's not the fish that I'm going for. So I'm going to throw the fish bait, and it's going to spawn a new fish. Now, it just so happened that it's a small one, and that's not what I'm looking for. But you get the idea. You could stand in one location. Like if I know that the stringfish only appears in the cliff tops, I can go to the cliff tops and just start throwing bait into the water until a large or an extra large shadow appears, in which I feel comfortable that that's my fish, and then try to catch it. And if you run out of bait, you can either always make more, or you can just scare the fish away. That's still a perfectly good strategy as well. But hopefully baits make it a little easier for you to, you know, get the fish that you're looking for. Okay. One other thing that I forgot to mention was that let me see if I can find it. The beach actually has 2 different locations. So this is the general beach, right, where it's just your normal average beach, nothing special. But there's a second place that can also spawn fish, which is the pier. Now, one thing to not confuse this, even though it is a pier, hey Marini, even though this is a pier, for the purposes of fishing, it's not a pier. If we were to run over here, this is our pier. And here, you can catch fish like the tuna. You can catch fish like the swordfish. It's escaping me. It's escaping the name now. The marlin. There we go. Marlin. So here you can get the marlin. And here you can also get the tuna. And those fish only spawn here on the pier, on the beach. So, know your locations. Know the shadow of the fish you're hunting for. Use bait or scare off the fish. And those are all of my tips and tricks and my guide for fishing in Animal Crossing New Horizons. Remember that there's a ton of great resources online that you can use to try to find what shadow is the one of the fish you're looking for. The Animal Crossing wiki has a ton of information and a ton of pictures of the shadows and the size of the fish. And don't forget that the Animal Crossing New Horizon guide will release May 1st of 2020. And that'll be extremely helpful for any fish hunting or bug hunting, because we'll be able to see all that information. When a bug spawns, when a fish spawns, what's the size of the shadow. And yeah, it's going to be extremely useful, so I recommend picking it up or just searching the wiki or searching other sites online. But yeah, with that being said, this was my guide to fishing. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. Happy camping, everybody. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching this video all the way till the end. If you liked our guide, please consider subscribing to our channel. I also wanted to share with you guys that we're also on Twitch. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we're streaming games like Animal Crossing, Brawl Stars for our Mobile Monday segments, and many, many other games. We also have a bi-weekly podcast on Sundays in which we talk about video games and the video game industry as a whole. We'd sure appreciate it if you stop by from time to time and just say hey in the chat. So, on behalf of the Cafecito crew, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay caffeinated!